Hello and welcome to the first best ball draft of the 2025 NFL season. My name is Adam Levitan. I feel happy to be alive because we are doing a live best ball draft today as we descend upon best ball summer. I am joined for this event by Justin Herzig, King Best Ball Bro. Herzig, how's it going today?
Doing great, doing great. I see we got the six spot. Six spot's kind of a pretty decent spot right now, I will say. We'll jump in.
Okay, yes, we will be drafting out of the 6-hole today. And today, the goal of today's show is basically to talk general strategy for this time of year. We are doing this draft here in early May. We're going to talk through strategy generally for best ball and also for drafting this time of year and hopefully try to implement some of those strategies here in this draft and pick up a pretty good team here on Underdog. This is the $25 buy-in Best Ball Mania that is happening right now. I have uploaded the ETR rankings to our draft applet here. So what you're seeing is our current ETR rankings for anyone who has a best ball subscription, which hopefully everyone does. It's $49.99, covers 12 months of best ball rankings, context, strategy. It's very easy to upload the rankings here. All you do is go over to our rankings here at ETR, click on the CSV tab here, creates a CSV for us. Go to rankings, go to NFL. Be sure you select the slate that we are here for. We are here for NFL 2025 season. That's what Best Ball Mania is under. Go to CSV upload. Find the name of that, which is 2025 ETR Best Ball Rankings from today. Open that up. Be sure to hit this green save button. And you are ready to rock with our rankings in your live draft applet. Jamar Chase first, Saquon Barkley second, Justin Jefferson third here. Relatively standard start, I think, although I've seen Bijan go as high as 2 here in best ball so far. Herzig, any thoughts at the top here as you move towards the 6th pick?
Yeah, I think in this area, we have just a very flat top. I think from an ADP wise, you can grab Gibbs. If you're grabbing Amara or Puka above Gibbs here, you're never going to end up with Gibbs. So I'd probably just go with Gibbs. Like, you can look at our various rankings for the different contests from DraftKings to Drafters to FFPC and here, and there's like small changes amongst those top 6, 7, and that's just because of how close from a projections they all are. So at this point of the year, I'm probably not going to go completely against and say, hey, I'm comfortable just, completely fading Gibbs. Also, in the second round, there's some decent wide receivers that can fall to us in that second. Right now, I kind of want to just leave the first 3 rounds with 2 running backs and a wide receiver, 2 wide receivers and a running back. We got some flexibility.
Yeah, and I think, to Herzig's point, if we change just the smallest stuff at the top here, a lot of these guys in this tier here are very close. This tier of CD, Gibbs, Puka, Genti, Neighbors, Amon Ra, could keep going down to Nico Collins. Brian Thomas, if we change just a little thing like raise Brian Thomas's target share from 22.5 to 23%, it's going to send him up a bunch of spots in the rankings. So I want people to be comfortable understanding that, and also understand that you can, if you're drafting a lot of teams, it's important not to get shut out, like Herzig was saying. If you're always taking Puka ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs, you might not end up with 0 Jahmyr Gibbs, and obviously that's really bad if you're drafting a lot of teams. If you're just drafting 1 or 2 and you preferred Puka to Gibbs, then yeah, I'm totally fine with that. Coming back around to us here, Herzig at the 19 pick. Best by rank would be HNT, Bucky, Ladd. Any thoughts here for us coming up?
I'm a really big fan of Hero RB as the way it sets up right now. I think there's some solid running back value in that kind of like 8th round, 9th round, and a few later on. So I probably don't want to, hamstring us too much by going running back. So I'd go with either Ladd or T in this spot. Ladd's a decent ADP difference, but we have T ranked higher. I'm okay with either. I'll give you your preference.
Oh, I mean, I'm a T guy. I think T is absolutely incredible. And what you get with T, which maybe you don't get with Ladd, is if something were to happen to Jamar Chase, you get major upside there. Like if something happened to Quentin Johnston. I don't think it makes that big a difference to Lad McConkey there. So yeah, I think that our rank on T over Lad, I agree with. Again, if I was drafting a ton of teams, I don't want to get completely shut out of Lad, though. Had such an incredible rookie year.
Yeah, the one thing for me with T at this point is if you click on the QB tab, you can see where Joe Burrow, his ADP is at 49.7. We have a rank
Yeah.
67. I think as the summer goes on, he's going to move a bit later towards our rank. And so if I want to be getting that stack, which I'm always thinking about when I grab a wide receiver, I want to think about a stack partner. I either have to reach on that Joe Burrow, reach from what our ranking is, or get help, get lucky and hope that he falls. So I'm just keeping that in mind right now. I do love the T Higgins. I think from a contingency upside, he's probably has the highest contingency of any wide receiver in the league if
Yeah.
Jamar Chase were to get hurt. But just some things I'm thinking about drafting here in May.
Oh, and I feel really good about the Burrow rank versus ADP because pocket passer competing with Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, even Kyler, even Fields. Like Burrow needs to be incredibly efficient on a ton of volume. And we saw that with Stroud last year. We were major bearish on Stroud as just a pocket passer who needed to sustain really insane efficiency given where he was drafting. And you see the efficiency fall and everything turns into a mess there for CJ Stroud. Ended up as one of the worst quarterback picks last year. Bucky Irving slides to 27 here. What are you thinking about our pick coming up here at 30 overall, Herzig?
Okay, so if Josh Jacobs were to fall, I think it's pretty hard for me not to take him. I think from a rank and just a tier above all these other wide receivers. When you start looking at Kyron and Chase, you're starting seeing a little more risk. I do personally like Chase. I think like his upside warrants that risk, but then you're looking at the wide receivers or Lamar. But yeah, I think Josh Jacobs falling to us. And this is one of those reasons, right? Currently in drafts, I do like this middle range because you can get some pretty strong values just from the way that people want to have their takes. So I'd take Jacobs here and set us up with a 2 strong running back start.
Yeah, and the thing about quarterback and tight end this time of year is that like we have a pretty good idea of who the starting quarterbacks are going to be. We're pretty sure for most teams who the starting quarterbacks are going to be. I like to go for more volume this time of year at running back and wide receiver because it's a little bit more difficult to figure out the bottom of the depth chart. So, I like going with 2 quarterback teams this time of year. So yeah, I could have made a case for Lamar there. I like going with 2 tight end teams this time of year, but yeah, I think Jacobs at a rank of 22 falls to us here at pick 30 plus the ADP value. Certainly a strong pick there with Josh Jacobs.
I think we have a decent chance of Jaden Daniels falling to us too. If we look at when our next pick is and his ADP of just at around 42.
Yeah.
And given when you look at our team right now, we have T. Higgins. We expect that it's going to be a little hard for us to stack Joe Burrow without reaching too much. It's possible. Now, here's the possibility for Joe Burrow is Jamar Chase goes 1. If they don't take him at 48, 49, then maybe, we are able even to pass on 54 and take him in that 6th round. It's like a possibility. But what I'm getting at is we have no other wide receivers. We don't know if you grab someone like Jaden Daniels. Yes, you can stack later with like a Debo or an Ertz or something, but you're also perfectly content if you don't stack because Jaden can score so many points on his own on the ground. So that's where from a, thinking about big picture here, I'm looking at.
Yeah. And one thing about this, I could have made a case to take Chase Brown here ahead of Josh Jacobs. That would have been going against rank and then follow that up with Joe Burrow here. Like really, really reach on Joe Burrow to ensure we get Chase Brown and Joe Burrow for the correlation on the Bengals. I just think that's too much reaching, and maybe that's a leak. I just feel like when I go for my stacks, I'm trying to get them at values because some people might have that stack with Joe Burrow back here, or they might have it with Chase Brown back here, and then we have a worse version of this Bengal stack. So it crossed my mind to go for Chase Burrow here, but I don't think that that's necessarily right given where the ADP is.
Yeah, I'm more content reaching in the mid and later rounds, but not this early. I think if Jaden falls, I think we take him here. Otherwise, yeah, I think Zay Flowers is a strong pick.
Yeah, and we certainly going to start needing some wide receiver help soon here. And I like Zay Flowers, obviously, a ton. Got good news on the knee here today. But yeah, Jaden Daniels, I think when people play on Underdog, and I play a lot on DraftKings, I'm more willing to take pocket passers on DraftKings. You get the 300-yard bonus. The rushing touchdowns aren't worth necessarily as much because the scoring is just higher, period. On Underdog, quarterback is worth a ton. I'm not sure that people realize how valuable quarterback is on Underdog when you start getting rushing touchdowns. The scoring totals just aren't that high. There's no bonuses, and it's only half PPR. So quarterback accounts for a larger portion of your scoring, and especially quarterback rushing. So just straight value there on Jaden Daniels. I like that pick.
Yeah, and if you're compared to Zay Flowers, the other is we're taking another wide receiver without his quarterback because Lamar's already gone. So now we've got two wide receivers, and we're not taking Lamar, and we're expecting that it's going to be hard. Probably not going to be grabbing Burrow either. Now, yes, we can think about stacking for our second QB, but it's not like oh crap, I'm leaving this draft with just a completely uncorrelated unstacked team.
Yeah, we see Ted McMillan and Travis Hunter go here. I'm sure Marion Hampton will go soon. Obviously, we saw
He
Ashton
went actually
Genty.
39.
Oh yeah, he went at 39, and Ashton Genty went here at 8. How do you feel about the rookies? And I'm just going to go over to our rankings here real quick. You can see we're slightly behind on some of these rookies. We're going to keep making tweaks on the rookies as we learn more, but we're slightly behind on them. How do you think about the rookies this time of year?
It's really tough because I want to be drafting now, and I love a lot of these rookies. But guess what? So are all the other sickos that are drafting right now. And you know what? All you need is kind of one person to like the rookie a little more and reach a little more than you. And historically, what we've seen is that the rookies' prices are at their most expensive right now. Sure, you might have one or two examples that like go against that and move up in ranks, but for the most part, historical data shows that as we go later into summer, as more casuals get in, as we get reports, out of camps that this person is, rookie's third on the depth chart, etc., rookie values they start dropping. And so I'd rather be taking my rookies later on. I'm not going to not take a rookie now, but I'm not going to go out of my way to reach. And oof, that would have been some crazy Zay Flowers value if he dropped.
Yeah, that stinks. Yeah, I mean, obviously the chalk pick here is Calvin Ridley. We do have Cam Ward backdoor stacks available to us, but any thoughts on this pick here? We have 15 seconds.
No, I think Calvin Ridley's perfect because Cam Ward is also the right point of the draft where I'd like to be taking a second quarterback to pair with Jaden Daniels. Calvin Ridley is just set up for success with him and that offense. You're competing against Tyler Lockett third round rookie, fourth round rookie. After that with Io Manor. Yeah.
Yeah. And to just general strategy, like Herzig's talking about, we're always thinking about stacks when we're drafting because in a tournament like this with so many people, it's so hard to advance. You need that extra correlation. And then you get to the final and there's over 500 people in the final if you're lucky enough to make it there, as Herzig has 3 times or 4 times, whatever crazy number it is. And so, yeah, we're always thinking, how can we set up stacks? Obviously, we're going to try to set one up with Jaden Daniels here. We're probably not going to end up with the Burrow stuff, even though I don't think Burrow's gone yet here, has he?
He hasn't, which is what we were saying. So we've actually got an opportunity if no one takes him unstacked, because that 1.01 did not take him at the 48-49. So yeah, if he falls to us at 67, even though it's still like a little bit of a reach from our ranks, I think it is but we grabbed Jaden.
Yeah. It would be tough for me to spend 2 top 6 round picks there at quarterback. But yeah, it's possible that we should have waited and grabbed Burrow there. But my point more is that as you're drafting, you have to be thinking about stacks. The bigger the field is, the more I'm thinking about stacks. And to Herzig's point, maybe you don't think Cam Ward's going to be that good. If you think that, then we shouldn't be taking Calvin Ridley here. And so if we're already betting on Calvin Ridley to have a really good year, we should be betting on Cam Ward to have a really good year here. Also, in order to win first place, which is what we're going for, we're not just trying to advance out of the regular season. We're going to need our 5th round pick, Calvin Ridley, to have a pretty big year here. Thoughts on us coming up here, Herzig? We are picking at spot 67.
Yeah, I think even if we see that, hey, Dave Montgomery becomes our top player on the board, we've just invested a lot at the running back position in 2 of those first 3 rounds. And then throw on, we also took an elite QB. We are behind the 8 ball at wide receiver. So I think we just got to hammer these wide receivers. And again, if I'm going to default to the ones that leave us with a decent stack partner, I think Jerry Jeudy is a tier above the other guys we have. But then after that, I'd probably go Jacoby Myers second because, again, Geno Smith is a solid spot of the draft from a draft capital, late-ish QB, mid-late QB to pair with your elite one. Could like George Pickens, you could with like the Rodgers, but now Rodgers is actually maybe even a little light to pair with Jaden Daniels. You could with two QBs, but
Yeah. Any thoughts on Laporta tight ends here? We do have Goff available to us at 109. If we wanted to take that and stop, we could have Laporta, Gibbs, and Goff go for.
the way that I think we're building this out is going to be a 2-5-8-3 because we took that elite QB early on. We're probably going to make this more of a 3 tight end build. Otherwise, we're really going to dislike our wide receivers. So
Yeah.
I'd stick with that Jerry Jeudy there, and just accept that like we're going to be. We know we can grab Zach Ertz, and there's probably 2 other tight end values we'll find along the way.
Yeah, and there's plenty of tight ends that I like and that our rankings like. And we're gonna go ahead and take Jerry Jeudy here, who we do have in our ranks as a pretty clear cut above the rest of the wide receiver options. So pretty easy pick there for Jerry Jeudy on us. But yeah, just on tight ends in general, like if you go to our rankings here and we just sort by tight end, there are plenty through the mid range that I like. And yeah, I like Bowers, I like McBride. We're gonna talk a lot more throughout the summer about the validity of those picks. But I think Mark Andrews and Dallas Goedert are being like, because there were trade rumors around them, people are scared to take them. Loveland and Warren are obviously exciting. I always like betting on Njoku. Broncos paid a lot to go get Evan Ingram. So, and Jake Ferguson's going to be the number 2 option for Dallas. Like through that range there's actually a lot of tight ends that I like. So I'm actually okay here not having a tight end. And we're not going to have one for a while here. Laporta's going to go. And then we get into this whole swath of that are not of tight ends that are not separated by a lot here.
Yeah, and a lot of it you got to think the difference between redraft and best ball. Like redraft, I'd be more willing to grab someone like Sam Laporta because Sam Laporta, you've got some consistency there. He's going to get some tight ends. He's probably a pretty solid median projection type player. But in best ball, you can kind of make up for that with 2-3 late guys, And so in that situation, like Laporta's not giving me the upside. I mean, he was tight end 1 his rookie year, but like what we're expecting from Laporta, what we saw last year, even the second half of last year where he was going well, he just doesn't have anywhere near the upside that Trey McBride and Brock Bowers have. So you're spending a lot of capital for like a safety, like a floor, maybe a median, which I'd rather take 3 guys later on, maybe sprinkle in some upside like a Loveland or a Warren or something. But also, I mean, I think there's even upside in guys like Brenton Strange and some of these others. Ferguson's going to be moving up the boards, but give me 3 of those when we're looking at this type of build.
All right, we're on deck here. Laporta did go 2 picks before us. David Montgomery is our best rank by a mile. I hate to burn another running back pick here, especially because we have Gibbs, and a lot of the thesis on Gibbs is if something happens to Montgomery, Gibbs is the best player in fantasy. So yeah, Herzig, any thoughts on this pick coming up?
Yeah, I think it's tough to take David Montgomery here. Good. I'm glad we didn't have to. George Pickens makes that easier. But as you said, we're just still not in a position where we want to take a running back and then let alone take the David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm a fan of drafting multiple running backs from the same team, but not when you're spending a 1st and a 7th rounder to do it. I'd rather do that with like a Tony Pollard, Tajay, or some of those mid-late guys.
Yeah, 2 things. First, on Pickens, like you could say, well, we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. And that's true. Some of these bets that I'm trying to make right now, like no one's going to take Aaron Rodgers. I assume we could probably get Aaron Rodgers in the last round here. And I'm like 70% sure he's going to end up as the Steelers starter. So you could make that move if we needed to. Also, Pollard over Montgomery is not something I would do on Underdog where it's so touchdown heavy. I mean, Montgomery is so much more likely to score touchdowns than Tony Pollard is. And let me just see where we have that in rank. I'm pretty sure we have Montgomery far clear here of Pollard. Yeah, we have Montgomery at 54 and Pollard here at 68. So yeah, about 14 spot difference in the ranks there for us between Pollard and Montgomery.
Yeah, I mean, Montgomery has the higher median projection, and then sure, in any game sample size, Pollard maybe has the higher upside if Gibbs is healthy, but from a overall upside, if Tajay gets hurt, Pollard's projection goes up a little. If Gibbs gets hurt, Montgomery becomes like a top 3 to 5 projection. Yeah,
definitely. What do you think about 2 quarterback teams this time of year or on Underdog generally?
So I mean, I think it's important to talk about this time of year, meaning we don't know when the schedule is. So schedule is going to
Yeah.
be coming out in a little less than 2 weeks. We had some conversations earlier where like someone was asking, like, "Hey, are you concerned about only drafting two QBs because the buys?" Well, on average, what you have around four teams on bye each week. So the chance of actually matching up with another team that's also on bye, I think it's something around like 9%, 10%. Or if you say there's on average six teams on bye, I think it now goes up to, gosh, I forgot the math, but like 18%. But in general, it's not that likely that you're going to end up with a QB at the same bye. And even when you do, it's not like you're completely dead. So I wouldn't shift my strategy just to avoid that risk. But when I have Jaden Daniels, I'm almost guaranteeing this is only going to be a two team on Underdog.
Yep, for sure. And on DraftKings, where it's 20 rounds, I am far more likely. I'm trying to get three stacked quarterbacks on DraftKings pretty much every time. Okay. 91st overall here. Herzig, any thoughts on this spot?
Okay. Can we click on tight end real quick? I think usually this is a place where I can maybe grab a Johnny or something, but Johnny left, so don't want to
Yeah.
grab that. I think these are a reach on all of these kind of tight ends. I like Josh Downs. I think just both indie guys are kind of discounted because the lack of who are we going to pair him with. So I would go Downs, knowing we can still grab some, and like we're getting close to a wide receiver cliff, while there's still a bunch of tight ends we like.
Yeah. And, it feels like a spot where we should be forcing tight end here as we don't have one yet and we have four. But wide receiver is going to fall off real fast here. Downs is a tough one to stack. I still have some hope for Anthony Richardson, but it feels to me like Daniel Jones is more likely to start more games this year than Anthony Richardson, barring improvement for Anthony Richardson. And like I don't want to completely rule that out. And Anthony Richardson obviously would be an incredible fantasy asset. It's a big risk to take because you could be taking a lot of zeros if you stack Downs with Anthony Richardson at this point.
Yeah, and I just don't think we stack him right now. When I think of Downs, honestly, for his projections, we actually want Daniel Jones to be playing. Daniel
Definitely.
Jones would help it. Or the alternative is Anthony Richardson is actually playing, and maybe that's because Anthony Richardson hit his 10% outcome where he actually had the same offseason coach as Josh Allen, learned how to have an accurate throw, and now we're in an even better situation that would be Daniel Jones. So I think Pittman and Josh Downs right now, they are values because people are just unsure of the QB situation and they don't know who to stack with. So it's worth kind of leaning into that, just accepting, hey, I'm not going to stack that player.
Yeah, and by the way, if you get into a spot here and you don't have a quarterback yet, I think Justin Fields is a super interesting option. We are ahead of ADP on Justin Fields. He just went there to AO19, but you can backdoor stack some with Mason Taylor, which is a bit thin, but at least it gives you some rookie upside and it gives you the field stuff. But he doesn't need to be stacked, I guess is my point. I don't think. Like, I'd like to have him with Garrett Wilson or something like that, but you don't have to, considering the way Justin Fields is going to score his points. Whereas someone like Brock Purdy, I would not feel good about having him unstacked. All
Yeah,
right.
I've done a decent amount of three QB teams starting with Justin Fields, ending with Jackson Dart, and
Mm-hmm.
then another QB that stacked as well,
Mm.
where Justin Fields, I don't think he has that much bench risk, but either way, he's coming out early starter. You've got Jackson Dart to kind of backweight some production as well, and then add that third in the middle. I think that's a pretty solid QB room.
Okay. Colson Loveland did go here if we are intent on tight end. Any thoughts on this pick here?
I like your Mark Andrews. I think we have to just accept that, hey, Mark Andrews is probably going to be on the Ravens, which is his best case scenario. There's even
Mm-hmm.
been some talk that I haven't seen really people picking up on much is there's a tush push opportunity for Mark Andrews to continue with the Ravens, something we didn't see that much last year, tested a little. And from an underdog touchdown scoring, I like it. ADP Brian Robinson makes sense, but I don't love those running backs, and I still feel really strong about what we have with the running back room. So,
Mm-hmm.
or B Rob, can I let's go Brian Robinson because ADP and Jaden Daniels, there is a correlation across the season between those two, even if in a one game sample size it's not.
Yeah. And, I was going to say that it's kind of hard to pass on Brian Robinson given our rank and given the ADP value and that we have Jaden. And you could say, like Herzig said, well, Jaden runs for so many touchdowns. It's not great for Brian Robinson. When the offense scores a lot of points, it is still good. And we saw huge outcomes last year for like Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson together. And those guys don't correlate very well together either. Brian Robinson did escape the draft with very little very low competition. How many do you think we can get away with 4 running backs here, given that we have Gibbs, Jacobs, and B Rob?
Yeah, so in BBM1, hyper fragile for running backs was kind of my go-to format. A large majority of my teams had that. Since then, I've really pushed for, instead of going with 4, I'd rather go with 3 at this point and 2 later on. It just
Mm-hmm.
gives you a little more of a balance and upside. So could we end up with 4? Sure, but I'd say I'd rather say, you know what, we like where we're at right now. Let's grab 2 more as the draft goes on, and predominantly more in the later sphere,
Mm-hmm.
and end up with, as I mentioned, that 2-5-8-3 format.
Yeah, and there are some running backs late that the market isn't really like going nuts on yet. Rookie running backs late that maybe the market isn't going nuts on just yet. There's been a couple that I've been taking. Jarquez Hunter, I think, is a risk, but one that's worthwhile taking late stabs. Same with Jordan James, I thought was interesting. And then there's also some year 2 guys, Blake Corum, Marshawn Lloyd, Ray Davis. Like those guys I feel like are interesting. Trey Benson, those guys are interesting as well late as kind of a bit post hype sleeper from the running back position too.
Yeah, and I think it's helpful right now to be thinking, hey, we are drafting in May. Which of these guys has the most opportunity to move up in the ranks from a closing line value as the year goes on? And Ray Davis is a good example. If James Cook, that holdout, gets more concerned, we hear more about that. Like Ray Davis should be shooting up. So this would be a good time to be taking your Ray Davis now. Maybe Jarquez Hunter too. Maybe it comes August and we hear that he's actually sitting out of the preseason games, and we know that's the number one sign of woohoo, Sean McVay likes him, and now he's gonna skyrocket up. So I
Yeah.
like those. I would say a little more boring, but I think Austin Eckler is a great fit for this team. You keep the Washington; it's an investment in that backfield, which is just a larger investment in the Washington team. Um, he's a pass catcher, which can correlate with Jaden Daniels. So something, and we have him as a value in ADP. So someone to keep an eye on there.
Yeah. Coming back to us here at 115. And this is what I mean. Like, I like all these guys. And I mentioned all of these guys earlier. I know that there's some big ADP gaps here, but in our rankings, they're somewhat clustered together. Any preference for you? I think we need to go tight end here. Do you agree, Herzig? And what do you think about these?
Yeah, I could see like Najee being tempting, as you were talking about earlier, and like saying, "Hey, now let's just do 4." But I kind of agree. It's a possibility that David Njoku would actually fall back to us, but we do have him a round ahead of Tyler Warren from a value. We have the Cleveland with the Jerry Judy, so you can kind of just say like, "Hey, we're correlating that passing offense," and but we also have Josh Downs. I'd probably go. Gosh, that's a tough one. I'd probably go Njoku. I think Tyler Warren's ADP is fake, and it's just going to continue
Yeah.
dropping. It's just there from before the draft.
Right. And Tyler Warren was expected to go before Colston Loveland, which is why before the draft, his ADP was all the way up there. If you told me that it was going to be Daniel Jones for the whole season, I might go Tyler Warren over Njoku. And I know the quarterback situation in Cleveland isn't great either, but man, when Flacco gets in there, it's at least exciting and fun. It's hard to see anything exciting and fun in the pass game for Tyler Warren here, which makes me sad for my Penn State and MFA Mackey Award winner.
Yeah, and you think, I mean, obviously you take ETR ranks, but also you think of pre-draft, post-draft. Jerry Judy and David Njoku are 2 of the biggest kind of pass catching winners from the draft, just because we all expected Travis Hunter was going to go there.
Yep.
And
And Cedric
now,
Tillman. Yep.
yeah, and Cedric Tillman. So if Cedric Tillman can come back healthy, that's huge. And so that's where I like, I think even though it's May, I see both of those guys. Like we reached around on David Njoku, but I think those ADPs are going to be shifting more to earlier, where I think 115 is going to be Njoku's ADP pretty soon in a couple weeks.
Okay. We're coming back around here in the 11th round at 126 overall. I do like JJ McCarthy, but we don't really have a clean stack for him. But when I get Justin Jefferson, like I'm trying to get JJ McCarthy. I think that he has nice upside versus rank. I also think Drake May is, and we're actually massaging our Drake May rank. I expect our rank on him to come up here pretty soon, which is a good reminder. Be sure that you're up before you draft, you're uploading these ranks all the time because we are constantly making tweaks if you are a best ball subscriber and uploading here. But yeah, any thoughts on this pick here, Herzig?
Okay. We have, let's look. We have 5 wide receivers. They're fine. There's a big drop off that we may have already missed. Maybe you can include Christian Kirk. I'd probably put Christian Kirk at the top of this.
Yeah.
Again, we look at the ADP and we're like, wait, this is a great ADP value. But again, Christian Kirk, I mean, even though our rank's a little high, I think in general he's moving downward because they just drafted 2 wide receivers, and I think the second, third round this year. But I'm still pretty happy with Christian Kirk at this spot.
Yeah, it's boring for sure, and I could make a case for reaching for Jake Ferguson here, actually, just because like I think he's the number 2 option for Dallas, but at the wide receiver position gets real thin, real fast. They did draft Texans did draft a slot receiver, and I do think that is Christian Kirk's best position, but it doesn't mean that'll happen here in year 1. And it also gives us access to backdoor Stroud here if we wanted to do that. What was the other backdoor? Oh, I mentioned Rodgers and Cam Ward. Yeah. Star method is very dangerous. Don't do the star method and fall asleep. Otherwise, you could end up with taking Aaron Rodgers in like round 12 or something like that and really be upset. But yes, I like to use the star method because when I'm drafting, I am locked the F in, Herzig. Okay. Coming back through here.
So let's talk star method real quick though. I'd say let's throw both Ertz and Eckler into the star.
And by the way, on Underdog, you can just type in Commanders here and see all of the options for your stack.
And so I think, like you were talking about the Jake Ferguson, I agree. Like I think Jake Ferguson's a pretty good pick right now.
Yeah, he just went there. His ADP is going to climb for sure.
Yeah, and because I knew we'd probably end up with a 3 tight end build here, and we can probably grab Ertz later. Like I wasn't, hey, we have to grab the Ferguson one. The Kirk was just kind of a better fit.
Yeah,
the wide receivers really feel ugly.
Right. And I've been taking some Leggett here in this range out of these guys, but I certainly don't feel great about it. And like, yeah, you want to have 5 to 6 wide receivers before you get to this pick in the draft. I think I'd love Goddard to fall to us, Herzig here, and I assume that he did.
Would you take Stroud or Goddard here?
So Goddard ADP is 146. Our next pick is 150. I'd probably go Goddard just because I feel so much better about Jaden. And we still have access to Cam Ward. But yeah, what do you think?
I mean, I'm fine with either. I think in general, I would go with the Stroud just because that locks in a stack.
Yeah.
And we're talking a round plus of ADP.
I can't believe I can't believe that ADP on Goddard, though. I mean, that's got to rise.
It's tough. So if you click on Dallas Goddard, like click on his name right there, and then you see like what they show for the box score, it looks so bad because there's not context. Like you're not knowing the injury aspect. You're not knowing how few passes Jalen Hurts threw last year. Yeah. I think that box score right there, combined with the trade rumors, which to be honest, if Goddard got traded, it probably actually would have been at worst a net even possible boom for him. But yeah, no, I think Goddard's a good value.
I mean, we're 21 spots ahead of ADP in our rankings. And again, I think it's a lot to do with the trade rumors. But to Herzig's point, like it could have been better for him. Like he could have gone to somewhere, a team that throws a lot more. But yeah, the ADP value on Stroud was pretty strong there.
And if someone's trading for him, you expect that team has a plan for him. Like they're going to want to make him similar like the Evan Ingram aspect. We like that because whether he's the Joker or not, we know that, hey, Sean Payton wants him as part of the offense. You're not going to bring in a pass-catching tight end like Evan Ingram unless you're going to use him that way.
100%. Yeah. And by the way, on Stroud, like there's untapped upside there, man. There was such a mess last year with the scheme and the offensive line and the wide receiver injuries. Hopefully a lot of that stuff is fixed, but you're not going to have to pay a lot to get it. ADP is 130. We have him pretty far behind ADP here, but I do think the ceiling outcome on Stroud, we're probably going to come up on his rank. Ceiling outcome on Stroud is a little bit higher than that, despite being a pocket passer.
Yeah, offensive line's supposed to be a little better. You draft Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, so you've got the additional investment in the wide receivers. I like it. And hey, look at this. We are now 1 pick away. Nathan Jessup's probably going to grab him because I'm pretty sure he's drafting with some ETR ranks and doesn't have a tight end yet. He doesn't.
Penix.
Wow, look at that. And there's the nice little win-win there.
Yeah. Wow, we got them both. We may have just won $2 million, Herzig. I'm not sure if you're aware. Is that what first place is this year? 2 million?
That is.
Yes. So you want to take Goddard here, correct?
Yes. Yeah. And we can unstar the QBs after this because
we're going to go ahead with the 2 QB 2 QB run here. All right. So we have 2-3-6-2 here. I assume you think we need 3 tight ends with Njoku and Goddard. Do you think you'd ever try to get away with 2 tight ends here, Njoku and Goddard?
Yeah, if we don't get Ertz and we don't love, I mean, I'd probably be fine with it. The question is, what are we doing with those additional spots? Because we're not investing it at QB. Okay. So now we could go with a 2-6-8-2, but 6 running backs feels a little overload with how we started. You could go 2-5-9-2, but it's rare that that ninth wide receiver adds like the right level of value back. So I'd probably say we go for Ertz, or we maybe just take an 18th round tight end because you can still find projectable volume at that position.
We also have
like
Schultz. Schultz for the stack is available to us.
That's a great one too. Yeah. Which is
okay.
why I'd probably go Eckler before Ertz on this pick.
Yes, we're coming back here at 163. I would expect both Eckler and Ertz probably to be available to us here. You have no problem taking B-Rob and Ertz on the same team here.
Yeah, and we've done some research on this in the past that 2 complementary backs on the same team can thrive both from an advance rate and from a playoff standpoint. It is a bet on the offense. We believe that offense is efficient. We believe that offense is investing in the running back position. It can be a situation where they're also willing to kind of use a workhorse where Brian Robinson gets the workhorse role. That's a little less expected, but in general, I'm just saying it because once they're invested in one, if that player goes down, you then have the backup and they have more confidence in that player as well, still taking over a workhorse role. And then come playoff time, yeah, I'm good with that goal here. Come playoff time, you can have play times where maybe B-Rob had a big game, has 3 touchdowns, all the B-Rob teams advance. Then you get the next week and we see that, hey, this is actually a more passing game. Jaden throws a touchdown or 2 to Eckler. Now you're getting a lower owned player that advances because across the field, it's not actually that popular for people to be handcuffing or drafting multiple backs from the same backfield.
Right, exactly. And there'll be some uniqueness here for sure, having B-Rob, Eckler with Jaden, I think, and we do not have McLaurin here, which I think, is a bit unique. And we'll talk more about uniqueness towards the end of the draft here once we get to the projected ownership stuff. But yeah, the way that things go, as Herzig said, in the playoffs means everything in these formats. And like Brian Robinson having a huge game and getting hurt, and then Austin Eckler next week being a workhorse, those are the kind of like outlier outcomes that you need to win a tournament that has, God, how many people are in this, Herzig? I don't even know. Hundreds of thousands.
670 some thousand, maybe
670 something thousand. So yeah, you're going to need a lot to go right.
672, 72.
My God. All right, coming back around to us here at 174. This is an 18-round draft, by the way. We are coming up on pick 15. Any thoughts on this pick coming up here, Herzig?
Ertz got drafted a little while ago, which, makes sense. ADP, not shocked. I would probably put Cedric Tillman at the top of the queue here. It continues to invest in that Cleveland passing offense at a position of need for us. If we can't get him, there's no running backs here that I feel like we really have to grab. Because again, if we're going to make this like a 2-5-8-3, I'd probably just go for best available wide receiver here with Cedric Tillman being the hope.
Yeah. One thing is that looks like Cam Ward's going to slip here, and that's 20 spots past ADP on Cam Ward. Do you have any regrets about going Stroud there if you knew that Ward was going to fall to us?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is we wouldn't have let him fall because we would have taken him a round or 2 earlier.
Right.
So, it makes sense that Cam Ward's one of those players where how many pass catchers of his have already been drafted? Calvin Ridley.
Right.
That's it. So, less people are fighting over taking him.
Yeah. We do not have any rookies on this team. And this is, I think, to the point that we were talking about at the top, which is rookies this time of year can be overvalued. You don't know how many times I've tweeted something like optimistic about a rookie, and the replies are all, "You guys are always too high on rookies. You guys don't know what's going to happen with the rookies. It's a bad bet, blah, And so as more, I think, casual people get into these streets, we'll see rookies ADP fall, especially on other sites too. On Underdog is a bit more, I think, rookie centric. than it is on some of the other sites that we cover in the best ball product, DraftKings, Drafters, FFPC.
Yeah, and I mean, and outside of the first rounders, none of those running backs or wide receivers are like going into training camp as the guy, and tight ends too. I know outside of those first rounders. And so we start getting the reports about running with the threes and gonna have an uphill battle to find. And this is blank, starters, veterans' job. Those reports, even if maybe we should ignore them for the most part, still have an impact on ADP, and that also drives down these rookie values when we get into August.
Yeah. So it gets thin everywhere this time of year because we don't know what's going to happen in the back of depth charts. Jerome Ford just re-signed on a renegotiated deal for $1.5 million guaranteed. Nick Chubb's not going to be back in Cleveland, I don't think, but it's still not that exciting. Marshawn Lloyd's going to have to battle Emmanuel Wilson. Kenny Gainwell's gone, which I guess opens up a little bit for Will Shipley there. They've drafted competition for Jalen Wright, although I'm still interested in him. Blake Corum's been written off in favor of Jarquez Hunter, but I'm still willing to take a shot on him. And Jordan James, if you think Christian McCaffrey is going to get hurt again, Jordan James would be next up behind Isaac Guerrero or in some kind of committee there. And then wide receiver is just really a mess. So yeah, any thoughts as we come back around here at 187, Herzig?
And this is an example where I kind of like the 3 tight end builds because look at the tight ends that are available. That's the only position that they're actually going to be playing. You have starting tight ends that are available at this point in the draft. And you can tell me there's some decent upside in a guy like, Mason Taylor or Theo Johnson looked kind of good before his injury rookie year, and he's an athletic specimen. I'd put Dalton Schultz at the top here just from our stacking. But I think that's a solid pick here. The Jerome Ford, I know we have ranked. I get it from a projection standpoint, but when you drafted 2 rookie running backs, Dylan Sampson and Quinshon Judkins, I just don't see the upside case, like best case scenario of what we saw last year. So I'm scared to draft him. I know Dylan Sampson's available too, and his ADP is like 170. It fits with our Cleveland investment, but same thing. Just so hard to see an upside for any of those 3 besides maybe Quinshon.
Yeah, no, I think Schultz is the pick here. Also, I will say I'm intrigued by Isaac Tesla. He's like one of the only rookies that people don't seem to want to click, even though he went in the 3rd round to one of the best offenses in the entire NFL. And I'm not saying that I know Isaac Tesla is going to be good, that I think they should have traded up 32 spots to take Isaac Tesla. But my point is a 3rd round rookie on an exciting offense with really good athletic measurables. That's Isaac Tesla's one that I've closed my eyes and clicked, and not one that seems like people want to click.
Yeah, he's on my golf teams, no question. Outside
yeah.
of that, it's, I can see an argument for it.
Yeah, but there's a rookie tight end, Mason Taylor. I talked about that with the Justin Fields stuff as possible backdoors here. Mentioned the Jalen Wright situation also. Obviously, Achan's there. Then they spend the draft pick on running back position also.
Yeah, late rounder Ollie Gordon, who was entering last college year, maybe as the top RB, and then just had a pretty lackluster year. But it's possible he gets goal line work on that Dolphins team.
Yeah. All right, we have 2 picks left here, Herzig. Any thoughts on where we stand right now? 2, 4, 7, 3 is the formation.
Yeah, I definitely want to grab one more running back. And then I think what you have right now with like that Noah Brown, Luke McCaffrey could be fine stack partners at the end.
Yeah.
I think yeah, no, there won't be any Houston guys available. I'm assuming Noel and Higgins. Higgins has definitely been drafted. I don't know where Noel's.
Yeah, Noah went also.
Oh God, 150. That's insane for.
Insane indeed. And by the way, I'm going to take Chig off the list here, but I do think Chig, if we had Cam Ward, I would have pushed probably for Chig over Dalton Schultz there.
I can see that. There's been some positive reports at the end of last year from that coaching staff on Chig, really taking that next step and separating himself as the starting tight end. And we do think, he still has athleticism. So I like the Chig call there too.
All right. If we want to go running back here, which I think we do, the options would be Marshawn Lloyd, who I mentioned, has to beat out Emmanuel Wilson, who was ahead last year, even though Lloyd was hurt a ton still. Emmanuel Wilson was ahead last year. Will Shipley, who hopefully will be taking over the Kenny Gainwell role, and then Blake Corum, who hasn't gone, even though Jarquez Hunter went a bit ago. So any preference between those 3?
I go Shipley. 3rd round talent last year. Didn't get his chance to play because obviously he's behind Saquon Barkley. Did play in 1 game, actually looked pretty decent. Kenneth Gainwell leaving. They didn't have feeling a need to bring him back. So I think they have confidence in Will Shipley. He's not going to get much time this year unless Barkley goes down, but if Barkley goes down and Shipley has that job, even if it's 80% of Barkley, I mean, that's the value of the draft.
Yeah. And, people are going to say, well, it's really hard to see Saquon getting hurt. He's such a beast. He's had ankle, knee issues plenty of times before. So, yeah, it
He's a
is
running
not.
back.
He's a running back. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to stop at 5 running backs here or
Yeah.
maybe best player available between running back and wide receiver?
I think we went 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah.
Those are really strong. Like we're counting on those guys to be healthy for a majority of the year and contributing strongly. The rest of the 3, we're hoping to fill in for some buys in a flex spot. So I wouldn't want to invest another in this. We already started behind the 8 ball at wide receiver. So let's go for a swing for a high upside play here. Of the guys, we do have the Tennessee kind of investment. So Tyler Lockett plays there. If you think everyone that's available right now, Tyler Lockett would have the best odds to score the most fantasy points. His upside's obviously capped because he's dusty, but it's worth thinking about.
Yeah. Those the guys up right now would probably be my favorite. How much do you weight stacking here? Like, I would not take Noah Brown or Luke McCaffrey over Tesla personally, but I get why someone would for stacking.
Yeah. I mean, it's Jaden Daniels, though. Like, if this was, I'm trying to think of an example of a team, maybe Brock Purdy or someone, or where, like, maybe JJ McCarthy, and you have a late Viking available, then it's like makes sense. Yeah, I'm good with the T-Slaw. I think it's Tesla, like coleslaw, but we're right in the thick of let's figure out what these names are and then have them correct us as we look through their
Yeah, I think we should swing for
interviews.
some upside personally. Like,
Okay.
we have solid at wide receiver, but like, let's say something happens to Jameson Williams and you start giving Tesla a
Like
ton of
betting on
routes, like
games. Yeah.
that would be exciting. So yeah, I think we swing for the fences a little bit more there, given we do have 8 wide receivers here on this team. So we did finish up with a 2-5-8-3. One thing that I did want to mention here is this column estimated ownership. And let me go back here to this and I'll go down to, let's see what we have for Tesla. Now, what this is saying is that right now, and this is always changing, but right now, what we are saying is we are projecting Tesla to be drafted in 46.6% of Best Ball Mania drafts. And there's, a whole algorithmic way that we're figuring this out. But the bottom line is that it is valuable to have guys on your team who may not have been selected in all the drafts. Let's say I get to the finals and only 10% or 5% or 1% of the teams have Tesla, and then he goes off. That is incredibly valuable. And for anyone who plays DFS, I think you understand that. So yeah, this is a super valuable column. I think for anyone that has the Best Ball subscription, you can always check this out. It's always changing. When you get to the bottom of your draft, if we have 2 guys close and I think it's a toss-up, I'm definitely willing to take the guy who we think is going to be less drafted. Herzig, anything to add on the projected ownership stuff here?
Yeah, and you mentioned this, but this is not predictive of what the field's going to end as. It is of the drafts that are happening today, taking account of how often he's being drafted in those drafted. That's what it's saying. So let's say Jameson Williams was to get traded and Isaac T. Slaw, whatever, moves up to a 14th rounder. Yeah, it's 46% now, but it's probably going to end up as like 95% because there are so many drafts still to happen in this contest. This works specifically for Best Ball Mania. You can replicate it to other contests that are open the same amount of time. But if you're talking about a contest that's a puppy that is going to open in 2 months, it's going to be a little different. But directionally, you can still get an understanding, kind of using your own kind of brain.
Yep, for sure. All right. How do you think we did here, Herzig? We went 2-5-8-3. We got Jaden and we got CJ Stroud stacked reasonably. We did invest pretty heavily early at running back here. Took a lot of shots on veteranish players at wide receiver, which scares me a little bit that we don't have the strongest or highest upside wide receiver room. I like what we ended up with at tight end, man. Honestly, like the 3 late tight end picks feel good to me. Any thoughts on our final product here?
Yeah, I agree. And this is what a lot of my teams drafting around now kind of look like. You definitely feel like they're kind of gross, but the reason why some of these players feel gross is because the market sees them as gross, and that's why we're getting them at a round or two value. Best ball is a game of market dynamics, and we're willing to take gross guys if it's a round or two past where we think they should be drafted. And that's kind of what happened a lot in this draft. Everyone else agrees they're gross and doesn't take them. We wait until we get a 2-round value on them, and then they go from gross to actually kind of sneaky solid.
Yep. Last point that I wanted to bring up here from a general strategy perspective is the running back thirst. Whereas on Underdog previously, you could see like no running backs or one or two running backs or only the quote unquote fish or take running backs here through this range. Now it's like after what happened last year where running backs were so dominant, it's flipped on a dime and you see how many running backs are going here in round 5, how many running backs are going in round 4. My gut, Herzig, is that it's gone too far in one season. In other words, people immediately gave up on their running back, zero RB, hero RB, late round RB stuff, and immediately were like, oh, well, it happened last year. Running backs hit. We got to start hammering running backs again. So my gut is it's gone too far. But yeah, any thoughts on what happened in this draft and generally the running back position this season?
That'll be interesting. If you think it's gone too far, then that means it's only going to go even further when the casuals get in August. Because I think right now you still have predominantly people that are drafting or people who are paying attention to the various content out there. And most of the content providers out there are saying like, hey, we're still on the wide receiver is a a priority in the early rounds, whether it's zero RB, hero RB, whatever you go with. And I think that we've got a bit more of a balance right now. As I mentioned, like my favorite builds right now are the hero RB builds, where let me still grab that one strong linchpin. And then the reasons why we love the late running backs, because you can get the Bucky White, the Chase Brown seasons, which are a lot harder to get out of wide receivers drafted at their similar capital. Then you only need to hit like one of those combined with your early running back. Or in this one, we go 2, and we're still hoping we hit on one more for our predominant flex spot. But I'd say I'm feeling it's balanced right now. I still think hero feels like the best kind of structures when you leave drafts with the solid lineup with late season upside.
Yeah, for sure. And the hero is what I try to do, especially on DraftKings where it's full PPR, 100-yard bonuses. I'm trying more to lean into that hero RB where I just hammer wide receiver, tight end, elite QB at times all through this range here. All right. We will have plenty more to talk about on Best Ball through this spring and this summer. We are just getting started here. Herzig will have streams for both Best Ball subscribers and on the free side. Plenty will also be back with plenty of strategy stuff, positionally, etc. going forward. Be sure you hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel so you are notified when all the new videos come out. It is indeed free. For the Best Ball King, Herzig, producer Ryan, for everyone behind the scenes of the Best Ball product, which you can find at establishtherun.com, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.